They said she was too dumb for school, too plain for marriage, and only good for scrubbing floors abroad. So, they sent her off like a discarded tool. But 8 years later, when Azza stepped out of a luxury car in front of the house they'd stolen from her father, holding the ownership papers, it wasn't to ask for love. It was to take everything back, with interest. Azza was the quiet one in the family. She didn't talk much, didn't fight back, and never caused trouble. But in her family's eyes, that made her weak. Her older brother was in business. Her younger sister was chasing a medical degree. And Azza, they said she was just there, useless, slow, and not smart enough. They laughed at her, ignored her opinions, and blamed her for things that weren't her fault. Her mother would say, "You'll never make it in life," and her siblings would nod in agreement. Even when she tried to help, they pushed her aside. Then something strange happened. Her father, Malo, who loved her the most, suddenly died. They said it was a sickness, but the way it all happened felt wrong. Before Azza could even grieve, her family sold all his things, even the house he built. They told everyone the house now belonged to them, even though Azza remembered her father saying it would be hers one day. Soon after, they told her she was lucky. They had found her a job abroad in the Middle East. They said she would earn big money and make the family proud. But Azza knew deep down they just wanted her gone. It wasn't about helping her. It was a way to get rid of the family's shame. They gave her a cheap suitcase, a fake smile, and sent her off like she was nothing. No hugs, no real goodbye, just a plane ticket and silence. Azza didn't cry. She just looked back one last time at the house her father built, not knowing it would one day be hers again. When Azza landed in Oman, she hoped things would be better. Her family told her she would be working in a good home, earning enough money to help them, and even save some for herself. But the moment she stepped into the big house, her dreams broke. The house was beautiful, but cold. The people inside looked at her like she was nothing. From the first day, Azza was treated like a robot. She worked from early morning until late at night, scrubbing floors, washing clothes, cooking, and running around with no rest. The woman of the house shouted at her for every little thing. The man ignored her completely. Even the children were rude. She was not allowed to sit while eating. Sometimes she was given only bread and tea. And when she asked for her wages, they told her, "Next month." But next month never came. Months passed, and she still hadn't received the full money she was promised. Every week she tried to write letters to her family back home. She poured her heart out in those letters, telling them she was tired, scared, and alone. But she never got any reply, not even one. It was like she didn't exist anymore. Slowly, Azza began to feel invisible, like a shadow moving through someone else's life. But even in that pain, something inside her refused to give up. She listened carefully whenever the family spoke, slowly picking up Arabic. At night, when everyone was asleep, she taught herself to read English from magazines in the trash. She started watching videos quietly, learning how money works, how business works. She would clean the floor with one hand and write new words with the other. She had nothing, but she was building something powerful inside, something no one could see, not yet. One hot afternoon, Azza was cleaning the backyard when she heard a splash and a scream. She turned quickly and saw the employer's small child had fallen into the swimming pool. No one else was around. Without thinking, Azza ran and jumped into the water. She didn't even know how to swim well, but she managed to pull the child out. The baby coughed, cried, but was safe. That moment changed everything. Rayhan, a cousin visiting from Dubai, had seen the whole thing from the upstairs window. Later that evening, he came down and spoke to Azza for the first time. Most people in the house ignored her like she didn't exist. But Rayhan looked her in the eye and said, "Thank you." Then he started asking her questions. How long she had been working, where she was from, if she had dreams. At first, Azza was quiet. She was afraid. But Rayhan listened patiently. She told him little by little about her life, her family, and her hopes. He saw something in her that others didn't. Her honesty, her strength, and her hunger to learn. A few days later, he returned to the house with an offer. He said, "I run a tech company. We need someone to help clean the office. It pays better. You'll have a day off each week, and the work is less stressful. Would you like to come?" Azza couldn't believe it. She said yes, immediately. For the first time in years, her heart felt warm. Working at the tech office was like stepping into a new world. The place was clean, bright, and filled with people who treated her kindly. She still cleaned floors and washed windows, but during her breaks, She listened carefully to conversations, watched how people used computers, and even asked simple questions. No one laughed at her. Some even helped her. Rayhan encouraged her to keep learning. The office became her secret school. Aza would sweep the hallway while listening to podcasts. She would write down new words, practice typing, and learn how to manage money. Every small chance, she used it to grow. She wasn't just a cleaner anymore. She was a student of life, preparing quietly for something big. Aza worked hard in the tech office, but she didn't stop there. On weekends, she started helping some of Rayhan's friends clean their small apartments. These were young couples, busy with work and no time to clean. At first, she cleaned just 1 or 2 houses a week, but her work was so neat and she was so honest that word spread quickly. People told others, "Call Aza, she's the best." Soon her phone was buzzing with new cleaning requests. Even though her schedule was tight, Aza never said no. She cleaned with care, always smiling, always respectful. She never touched what didn't belong to her, and she always arrived on time. People trusted her. Some even gave her their house keys. They said, "We feel safe with you, Aza." That trust became her biggest strength. She was no longer just a maid. She was becoming a businesswoman. Rayhan noticed her growing network. One evening, he sat her down and said, "You're already doing the work. Why not make it official?" Aza didn't understand at first. He explained how she could register her cleaning business, give it a name, and even hire others. At first, Aza was scared. "I didn't go to school for business," she said. But Rayhan smiled and replied, "You've learned more through life than any school can teach." With his help, Aza registered her cleaning service. She named it Brilliant Hands Cleaning Services. Then she did something even more powerful. She started hiring other migrant women like her, women who were overworked, underpaid, and tired of being treated like nothing. She trained them, paid them fairly, and gave them respect. For the first time, these women had hope. They felt human again. Every month, Aza sent money back home. She still believed deep in her heart that maybe her family would one day say, "Thank you." Maybe they would finally love her, or just be proud of her. But each time she called, they only asked for more. "Send more money, Aza," her sister would say. "We have bills. Mama is sick. We need help." But they never asked how she was. They never said they missed her. One time, she asked if they got her letters, and her brother laughed and said, "We don't have time to read your long stories." That night, Aza cried quietly, not because of the hard work, but because her own family still treated her like she was nothing. Still, she wiped her tears, stood up the next morning, and went to work. Because Aza had started building something from dust, something no one could take from her, not even the people who gave her away. One quiet evening, after a long day of work, Aza was checking her phone when she saw a message pop up. It was a forwarded message meant for her sister, but somehow it reached her instead. As she read it, her heart sank. The words hit her like a heavy stone. It said the family had sold their father's house, the old ancestral home where she grew up, played, cried, and dreamed. But what shocked her the most was how they sold it. They told the buyers that Aza was dead. Dead. They didn't just forget about her. They erased her. Aza sat still, unable to move. Her hands were shaking. Her body felt cold. She read the message again and again, hoping she misunderstood. But it was clear. Her family had forged her signature, created fake documents, and removed her name from all the property papers. The house that once belonged to their father was now gone, and she didn't even know until it was too late. They had taken everything. Still, Aza didn't cry. The old Aza might have broken down, but this Aza, the woman who had cleaned homes, learned 3 languages, built a business, and helped other women rise. She had changed. Her silence was not weakness. It was power. She sat alone in her small room, staring at the wall, thinking. Then she picked up her notebook and wrote something new. A new goal, a new plan, a bigger dream. If they had erased her name from the past, she would write a future so bright that the whole world would know her name. They could steal her house, but not her strength. They could lie about her death, but she was more alive than ever. From that moment, Aza decided she would no longer send money back home. No more calls, no more letters. If they thought she was dead, then she would be, to them. But in the real world, Aza was about to rise like fire, not to beg for love, not to prove her worth, but to become the woman she was always meant to be, strong, fearless, and unstoppable. Asa sat in her small room late at night, thinking deeply. The pain of her family's betrayal still sat in her heart, but she was done crying. She picked up her phone and started typing her story, not with her real name, but as the invisible worker. She wrote about being sent away like trash, working in harsh conditions, being treated like she didn't matter. She wrote about learning, growing, and slowly building something for herself. And then she shared it on social media with pictures of her cleaning team, strong, proud migrant women who now had dignity and good pay. Something unexpected happened. Her story went viral. Thousands of women, especially African women working in other countries, began sharing their own stories. They thanked her for speaking up. They called her brave, even though they didn't know her real name. Slowly, people started reaching out, asking if she could offer cleaning services in other cities. Asa saw the opportunity. With Rihan's help, she created a proper website and logo. She called her company DigniClean, a brand that stood for respect, fairness, and strength. Every week, her page grew bigger. People were not just booking cleaning services, they were inspired by her story. She trained more women, expanded to other cities in the Middle East, and built a team that was unstoppable. Asa was no longer invisible. She was leading a movement. Then, one day, she received an email from a wealthy UAE investor who had been quietly following her story. He didn't just want to invest. He wanted to buy the company and help it grow across the entire Gulf region. Asa couldn't believe her eyes. Within weeks, the deal was signed. DigniClean was now worth millions. The quiet girl once called useless had just become one of the youngest African women CEOs in the Middle East. And the world didn't just see her, they celebrated her. After 8 long years of silence, Asa came back to her country. No one knew she was coming. She didn't call, she didn't warn. She simply arrived, not in the dusty clothes of a maid like they remembered, but stepping out of a shining black Mercedes, wearing a smart suit and sunglasses. Her driver opened the door, and the neighbours came out, mouths wide open in shock. Her family stood at the front of the old house, frozen. Her mother dropped the broom she was holding. Her siblings stared as if they had seen a ghost. That's because for years, they told everyone Asa was dead. They even told the neighbours she had vanished abroad and was never heard from again. But now, here she was, alive, strong, and glowing. Asa didn't shout. She didn't curse or ask why. She just walked calmly to her mother and took out a brown envelope. Inside it was a land title, a new one, clean and official. And this time, it was signed fully under her name. Her mother's hand trembled as she held the document. She couldn't speak. Her siblings looked at one another, confused and scared. The lies were about to catch up with them. Still, Asa said nothing cruel. She simply said, "I came back to see the place I once called home." Then she turned to the neighbours and greeted them warmly, thanking the ones who used to smile at her when her own family didn't. The neighbours, shocked by her transformation, welcomed her like a queen. Her family tried to smile, to act like they were happy, but their eyes showed fear and guilt. They knew she now had power, respect, and success, all the things they tried to steal from her. But Asa had already moved on. This visit was not revenge. It was a quiet, powerful reminder. The girl they threw away came back stronger than ever. A few days after Asa returned home, she called for a quiet meeting with her family. They sat around the old table, uneasy and confused. That's when Asa pulled out a small, aged box. "This belonged to Uncle Joro," she said softly. "Before he died, he gave it to someone for safekeeping. I got it last month." Her mother's eyes widened. Her brother shifted uncomfortably in his seat. From the box, Asa took out an envelope. It was dusty and old, but the seal was clear. She opened it and placed the paper gently on the table. "This is Papa's real will," she said. Everyone froze. She explained that her father had written this will before his death and had hidden it, trusting his brother, Uncle Joro, to protect it until the time was right. Inside, it clearly stated that the house, land, and savings were left for Asa, not because she was the favourite, but because her father believed in her heart. He knew she was quiet, but strong. He knew she would take care of the family and protect what he had built. Tears filled Asa's eyes, but she held them back. Her siblings gasped. They had forged a fake will, erased her name from all papers, and sold the house, thinking no one would ever find out. But now, the truth stood in front of them in black and white. Asa continued, "Everything you sold, you did it illegally. And now, by law, it's mine again. The land, the house, everything Papa left." No one could speak. Her mother opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her siblings looked down in shame. Asa wasn't there to punish them. She wasn't there to fight. She was simply there to show them the truth they tried to bury. The girl they called useless was the one her father trusted the most. The one they threw away was the one who owned it all now. As the truth settled in and Asa stood tall with the original will in her hand, her family broke down. Her brother, who once laughed at her and called her useless, now fell to his knees, begging for forgiveness. "Asa, please. We didn't know. We were desperate," he cried. Her sister, who used to mock her quietly behind closed doors, wept loudly, clutching her stomach, like the pain was too much to bear. Their mother, proud and manipulative all those years, tried to kneel before Asa, her lips trembling, but Asa did not move back. She looked at all of them, calmly. "I'm not the one you buried," she said, her voice steady. "You buried your own hearts when you chose greed over love, when you sent me away like trash, just to grab what wasn't yours." The silence that followed was loud. No one dared speak. They knew it was true. But Asa didn't come back for revenge. She didn't scream. She didn't throw them out like they did to her years ago. Instead, she did something they never expected. She gave them rooms in the small servant quarters behind the house. Simple, clean, but far from what they once had. It was the same place they said she belonged, the same place they would have sent her if she had returned empty-handed. They looked at her in shock. Her mother's eyes widened. "You're putting us there?" she asked. Asa nodded. "Not to hurt you, but to help you understand what it feels like. You once thought I was only good for cleaning floors. Now you will live where you thought I belonged." She walked away without another word, leaving them to sit in their thoughts. It wasn't hatred, it was justice. Silent, graceful, and unforgettable. Asa stood at the gate of the house that once held only pain. But this time, it wasn't just her home. It was hope for many others. She had transformed the house, not into a mansion for herself, but into a shelter. A safe place for housemaids who had been abused and abandoned abroad, just like she once was. Each room was filled with warmth, beds with clean sheets, food and care. Girls who returned broken now had a place to heal, to rest, to dream again. She named it the Mallow Shelter, in honor of her late father, not because he gave her riches, but because she believed in the kindness he once saw in her. She started a scholarship in his name too, for girls who were told they weren't good enough, for daughters who were forgotten. The scholarship gave them the education Asa had once only dreamed of, sitting on cold tiles, washing dishes in a foreign land. Asa didn't chase cameras. She didn't go on interviews. She didn't post luxury pictures. Her peace was private, her heart was quiet, and when people tried to praise her or ask her how she went from a housemaid to a millionaire CEO and now a global voice for justice, she would only smile and say one thing: "They threw me away, but I built a throne from what they discarded." And truly, she did. From dust, she rose. From rejection, she found her power. And from pain, she gave others healing. She was no longer the shame of the family. She was a queen in her own story, and no one could ever write her out again. If Asa's story touched your heart, don't just scroll, share it. Let the world see what real strength looks like. Tag someone who needs to hear. Your past doesn't define your power. Follow for more stories that turn pain into purpose. Because queens aren't born, they rise.